Welcome to Timberborn and the settlement of the Steeltide. We're on the terraces map in hard mode, and we're about to take on one of our longest droughts yet. In this video, we're going to extend our main dam over the edge of the cliff, get a more reliable source of bad water, and unlock a number cruncher so we can dramatically boost our science. I've got some big plans for this episode, but the first thing we need to do is get through this drought. And you can see that we've got a dam that is unfortunately only halfway full. And that's because we just managed building these last layers to the dam right as the drought was arriving. If we can survive through this next drought, which is about 18 days, 19 days, we're going to be in a much better situation going forward. So my first thought for this drought is we need to make sure we have enough water stockpiled to get through. And after that, I'm going to basically save everything I can for the crops. I think we need about 2,600 or so water, which we more or less have here as soon as this last large tank is full. One of the first things I want to tackle is getting these beavers off of manual labor. I noticed we've got basically a full supply of logs now. In fact, a lot of our lumberjacks aren't really doing anything because we have all this excess log set up and we're not really consuming it as fast as we could. So with that, I'm going to take this large manual power wheel out and replace it with an engine. In fact, I think we could use that to put down another smelter. And since we already have all those resources, it looks like that's going to take no time to build at all. In order to get that engine populated, we did not have any haulers in there. So I've put mandatory at least 2 haulers working for now. I don't really like doing this. I usually like having hauling as like a low priority thing people come into. But just to make sure this is being populated, we'll keep somebody on guaranteed duty for now. And with the engines all running, I think it's time for our first major project of this drought. Now, one of the things I'd like to start doing with this dam is expanding it over this giant cliff. I want to use some of those new 3D buildings in this expansion to get this water over here and start populating some of this to be green. So the way I think I can do this is I could make basically an extended bridge over here, and then we could use impermeable floors to make it solid. Now in this expansion, they have all these overhangs, and I think these are going to be the parts that are vital. Now, they get increasingly expensive as you get longer and longer. So I'm going to start with some of the cheap ones. So if you look down here, there are these little ledges that are set up. So what I think I could do is I could set something like that to more or less create a foundation. Yeah, something like that. We're probably going to have to extend it just another layer to get all the way. Now, unfortunately, this last piece, I don't have a way to approach the bridge from the other angle, so I can make like a nice arch. So I think I'm going to be stuck with something a little ugly like that, having to go up one more. Then if we're to take basically levees, we're going to have to fill in anywhere there's this kind of corner. So like anywhere like this, we have to fill in, or otherwise the water is going to flood through. So something like that, I think, will be the start of this dam. Now, we could potentially have the beavers attack this from 2 different angles. So you can see they're already starting to come over here to build this way. I think that's fine. And then maybe we can put platforms up here so they could build down from the top. None of this is going to work unless we have another piece, which is impermeable floors. 200 science, we don't have enough for it yet, but we will shortly. So while they get started on that, let's check back on our water. You can see that our water is all topped off, so I don't need all these pumps running full blast. What I'm going to do, I'm going to keep one running, and I'm going to pause everything else, and that's going to get us all those workers back. And with that, I can resume one of our builder huts at low priority. You know, with all those beavers freed from building, I think we can afford another builder's hut. Now, I see that these overhangs, they just completely devour our planks. For these bigger ones, they almost take like 20 each. Given we have some excess power coming from the engine, I wonder if we can get away with some more planks in here. Then I'm going to throw in a storage to hold it all. And make sure that we get that little road in there. And again, all this has to be done before they continue that bridge. I think this means that we're going to have all the materials they need to build that very close to, because everything's going to be in this little shed area. And to that end, let's make sure that we're obtaining from those log piles, and I'll set some of these other ones to be supply. And with the materials so much closer now, they're just cranking these out. Will they continue with that? Let's check on our water. Now this I am not happy with. We've only got a layer and a half, if we're lucky. and we've got 11 and a half days to go. Now, admittedly, we aren't pumping anything other than this one, which I'm now going to turn off. And this won't be great, but I think we're going to do it. Even if we run out of water in here, we've got enough food stockpile to last. I think we're going to make it. While I'm here, I notice we've got a few homeless beavers. I'm going to continue our large stairs that we've got here. And we've got space for another 2 large homes there too. Okay, down here we've made good progress on our foundation of the bridge. And I think it's time to start planning what we're going to do with it. Now, I need to make basically room for sluice gates up here to fill in water down. And it's a little bit diagonal. So what I ultimately plan on doing is I want to square this up a bit. So this is going to ultimately be square this way. So before I block that off, I think we're going to have to get the impermeable floor. We're going to have to make sure the appropriate parts are covered within that square area. Actually, now that I pan out a bit, I think what I'm going to do is instead take it this way. This is going to be where I'm going to square it off. Yeah, so that would be 1 more row of impermeable floors right there. So now we can come up with our other plan. So we're going to put those gates right in the middle, right there. Plan is going to be to continue basically these walls all the way up. Just like that. Keep going all the way up until we're flush with the top of the dam. That's how we're going to start. And then from here, we can build this forward as high as we want. And then once all of this is built, we can tear out these and get it all back. That is going to take a long time to build, especially since it's all vertical. There's not really a good way for them to get to these places. Actually, you know what I could do to speed that up? We're going to use the bridge technique. Yeah, we're going to do that. Won't be perfect, we won't get as far as we could, but if we built a bridge like that, that would allow us to get and build more. Same thing here, we're going to repeat that process over on the other side. Yeah, that's just going to let them build all of these columns in parallel instead of sequentially. Everything else is looking okay though. We've got a lot of kind of backlog trees that we need to cut down, so this isn't really affecting our log supply too badly right now. We will run out of basically these scrap metal sooner than later. So naturally, we've got another supply here. That's going to be our next extension. So it won't be too bad. We won't have to really move too much of our production. Something I would like to start planning for, though, is TNT. I think TNT is kind of a missing thing for us. We've got metal blocks, gears, and planks, and 400 science, which we have. So I think we could start putting a TNT production down here. And then maybe, since we're short on beavers, we can power this with another engine. I'm going to put the engine here, I think, kind of back in that corner. And then with that, we could then put our TNT production kind of flush. That gives us space to extend this way. The barrel's kind of in a yucky position. We can live with that for now. That can always be moved. Now, otherwise, we've got 2 days left in this drought, and I think we're going to make it. After we turn off those pumps, we really started retaining the water. And we still have a lot of water here for the beavers to drink. So, good shape all around. We've got our first bridge built. It's going to let them build all of this at the same time, so that's really good. Now, I will start building on this bridge a bit more. I want to start extending downward here for whatever it is we're going to build. I'm going to start this very simple. We're just going to make a nice little simple pond, like a simple retaining wall. Before I forget, the other thing we're going to have to do is put impermeable floors through all of this. And I don't want to block access off to do that just yet. So we're going to do that. And then I don't want them to build these ones until they've had a chance to build all of that. Okay, that's going to be our first test of these 3D buildings. And with that, our drought is over. So, first thing, we got to make sure we're unpausing all our pumps. Building is going to slow down for a little bit as we get everything filled. Now, I can see that our explosives factory is finished, but we're not really producing anything. And that's because we've run out of storage. So I'm going to put down an extra medium warehouse to get that excess. Look at that. On the second day of our wet season, our main dam is almost full. So we're going to have nice escape from having to worry about water for a while. Let's take a look to see how we're doing elsewhere. Explosives are starting to stockpile. Excellent. We do need somebody on this bad water pump. I have a feeling he's not getting as much as he could because this is really diluted. That's too bad. We'll at least get something. We finished all our impermeable floors down here, so that's great. These can start being set back to normal priority. And that does it for the top. Okay, that went much faster than I was expecting. We are going to delete all of this. Get all these resources back. And in fact, what we can do now, I'll pause it for a second. We're going to get rid of all of this logs right in here. It's going to be a little bit difficult to reclaim this stuff, but we can delete all of these pillars. And so all of this water is now going to flood in and fill all this space. So we're going to see. This is going to be our test whether or not this bridge is going to work. Here we go. The sleuth gates. Actually, I might have to close these. They're not quite ready to be open. That worked as intended. Perfect. Now, as we start to come to the end of this wet season, I would like to start expanding our population again. I think with all this water, we've basically doubled the supply of water since the last drought. We have enough for some more beavers. And I'm going to jump quite a bit. I'm going to put 3 new breeding pods. So that's going to really boost the number of beavers we've got. And to account for that, I'm going to put in 2 more barracks up here. Actually, you know, what I could do instead, could we jump up to a large barracks? Yeah, we're going to go right to a large barracks. With this in mind, we might end up having to boost our food production again. So I'm going to keep an eye on this. This is mostly full, because we might have to use some of our water to get more farmland. I want to take a look to see what other mischief I can get into, now that we have kind of this extra breathing room, extra building capacity. Now, the first one that I see here is that this is an easy way for me to extend our green space. Like, this area right here is just asking to be converted into another dam. And if we were to put some more gates down there, another one just like that, that would open up this space. With a few more levees down there, that would let us reclaim most of this as well. It's not going to be a deep supply of water, but it would at least give us something. We do need a way to actually build any of this. So let's see, I think I've got some space here for this road. We can get over to these. Here's some simple stairs will get us down. And then probably we're going to need, what, some double walkways across? And I think for here, I am going to need to tear out a couple of these trees. I were to just tear out 3, I think I can make some stairs right there. Okay, so that's going to be a pretty easy win to get some more farming space. The next thing I'm looking at, well, we've got... Whoa, a 26-day drought. Well, I am very happy that we have this then. At 26 days, I think we're fine, because we've doubled our water capacity since the last time. As I was mentioning, the other thing that I would like to do is, you can see here that we've got clean water coming through this route, and bad water coming through this route. And it's all coming down to this section right here. If I were to dam this up, that gives us some options down here for filling good water up in different ways. And I think it shouldn't be too hard to get there. Like, if we're here, is our last road, like, it wouldn't be too hard to make a road there. And I think we have, for example, here, enough space that we could make a road up that way. And now we just need to figure out a way down. Well, we're going to need this anyways, so why don't we just make a road down here? And now we can just continue that route all the way down. Now we've got some space to work with to build. We're just going to make a levee all the way across. This is quite a long walk for these builders to get to. Would it be worth putting down a storage pile for the haulers to populate? I'm going to say no for now, if only because we don't have enough haulers to really make a difference. Now we're out of bad water, so I'm going to temporarily pause our explosives factory. It's not doing anything. Something we could do, though, since we've got this engine down here that can provide power, maybe we should invest in science. What could we do to increase our science research? We could get a number cruncher. Okay, that'll be the next thing we're going to save up for, is a number cruncher. And then we can probably put it up here, somewhere down here to connect into these. Other than that, we're kind of just waiting for our builders to get through our queue before we invest in something else big. That, and we're waiting for our population to continue to boom. As you can see, we still have a few extra vacancies for our jobs, so it's a little bit hard to expand right now. And we can see with our main bridge kind of finishing up, the beavers are already turning their attention to this other construction. Our water tanks have started to fill up though, so I'm going to pause a couple of these, especially the ones far away. We'll just keep the ones in close proximity to try to keep us topped off. With 18 days to go, you can see that we've made a substantial dent in our dam. In fact, we might even get to the end of this before these 17 days. And part of that is, I think a lot of it went into this large tank. We just pumped all of this into here. So if anything, I think that is a sign that I shouldn't be pausing all of these during the wet season. I should at least have a few constantly keeping these topped off. Building-wise, we're actually looking pretty good. You can see that the builders have finished most of this extension. They just have another 2 pieces there, which they should finish shortly. I can see those last builders coming. The next thing that's going to happen is I can see them starting over here on this last bit. So they're going to finish this retention dam. With that bit of the build queue done, I'm just going to give them some background work to slowly pick away at making this a little taller. Now, for the next major construction effort that we're taking on, I would like to do something about our bad water supply. I want a lot of TNT, but we don't have a lot of TNT because we run out of bad water. Our closest bad water supply is here, which is ultimately running in and ruining these underground ruins, which I would love to get access to as we run out of, raw ruins to work with. So I'm wondering if there's something that we can do here to use the 17 days that we've got left to make a more secure supply of this bad water. Now, having the bad water here is annoying because this is kind of separate from the rest of our industry. Our industry is here if we're going to expend it with more power. I wonder if we could reroute some of the bad water over into this giant kind of tank that we've got here. Now, it will spill through unless we have another outlet for it. So we could potentially make another outlet over on this side. Yeah, I think that's what we're going to try to do. How much TNT do we have stockpiled? We have 32 TNT, so not a whole lot. We're going to have to be very judicious with our TNT. But we're going to do baby steps then. First thing we got to do, we got to get over this water. That's probably the shortest path that we can take. Get us over that canyon. And now we've got to get builders up this really jagged cliff. Well, maybe we can just take the direct route. I think this road will eventually be our ideal freeway of the future. So let's say that road connected in a straight line. We can just build up all the way here. So we'll go straight up that way. Now, once we're up here, what are we going to do? Well, the first thing we need to do is dam these 2 edges off somehow, because I don't want water flowing down anymore. Now, if we cap those off, we now need an alternative draining point. So what I'm thinking is we can treat these as kind of cascading pools. This top pool up here is going to drain into the secondary pool, and then we're going to cut another new drainage point for it. Let's get the beavers up there to actually work on this. So we'll need another road that gets us up to the ruins, and yet another road to get all the way up to the top. Next, we need to get this connected. And there's enough flow that we're probably going to need something 3 wide. So we're going to have to tear out all these trees just to make space. In fact, instead of tearing them down, maybe the better thing, since we're going to be using logs over here, why don't we cut them? Yeah, we'll get that lumberjack cutting everything he can. Next, this is dangerous territory because I don't want them to be walking in here when the bad water comes. But if we got them over here, I think what we could do is then dynamite this line out to get all the water out. So if we were to put dynamite down, which takes 600 science, so we don't quite have that yet, and I'm saving that for the number crunchers. So let's assume that we have the dynamite. We would run it all the way down here and dynamite somewhere in here. Maybe these 3. That would be cheap. Now here's a catch. Once that bad water flows in, it's going to hit this channel. I want it to flow back to the river. I don't want it flowing this other direction, because that's going to take it all the way back down to this pool, which otherwise is a good water area. So we're going to need a way, more or less, to build some levees down here to stop it. And that means that we're going to need another set of really long stairs to get up here. Actually, you know what we could do? We could connect it with up here if we wanted to. We've got stairs right there already. That can save us a little bit of time. Okay, that is going to be our first set of plans to get this blocked. We're starting to get a few more beavers for excess population. I want to speed up getting that number cruncher, so let's stick down a couple of extra temporary research huts. Otherwise, we're at 13 days. Our water could be better. we're approaching 2 levels deep. Construction-wise, you can see we're making progress up here, so that's good. We've almost got the stairs built. We're a few more levees away from getting this last piece built over here too. This takes a long time because it's such a long walk. You can only get a few pieces built every day. Now, if I want to maximize how much bad water we're going to eventually retain with this, I should probably also put a few extra levees here. Kind of a cheap diagonal approach. And we'll also have to make a path to actually get there. Now I see that we've just hit 1,500 science, so that means that we can finally unlock the number cruncher. Now the number cruncher, it looks like we do not need any beaver to be populating it. However, it does take a lot of horsepower at 500 horsepower. Now that does bring up something I did notice in here. I've got all these buildings running, but this one engine only supplies 400 horsepower on its own, and that's not enough to actually power all these buildings. So what I'm going to do is put the number cruncher here along with some extra engines. I know I was originally thinking of it being over here, but this engine will not be powerful enough to run it. So what I was thinking is maybe, let's see, if we populated 2 engines like that, could we fit in a number cruncher on the edge here? Well, yes, if we just filled in that. And I'll bump all of those up to be higher priority than anything else for the builders. And there's our number cruncher. Yeah, that's going to give us a pretty good boost to our science. At 10 science per hour, that's basically equal to 10 of these inventor hunts. Plus, it keeps running at night compared to the other ones. With our science now so high, that's going to unlock dynamite. Okay, for dynamite, there's 2 things I want to do. First thing, we absolutely need to reroute this bad water. So we need to get this pool connected to the other pool. And it's probably going to have to be 3 wide. So I think that is the cheapest spot that we could potentially do that. Now we only have 32 dynamite, so we have to be kind of cautious with what we're spending. The next cut, I think, is going to be here. This would be the cheapest spot. I think that's going to take 27 dynamite total between those 2. So this part isn't going to really matter. We're not going to be able to get to this expansion in time. We're not going to have a, like, what I want to do is run a trench through here and then fill this with bad water. I don't think we're going to make that in time. Now, unfortunately, that's kind of a chicken and the egg situation because we still need to make more dynamite, and we can't make more dynamite without bad water. And if I spill all this bad water off the map now, we're never going to get any bad water back at our main supply. You know, another option I could do, I think of it, is I could put a bad water pump all the way up here. It's a big walk, but at least as a temporary way, I might be able to pull this off and still have access to bad water. Let's see, we've got 5 days left in this drought. We'll see if we can do it. Otherwise, a lot of our build queue is starting to finish up. You can see we did manage to block that. We have managed to block down here, so that's pretty good. You know, if this TNT does eventually go through here, maybe I should build an extra staircase just so I can build a wall to protect these beavers if they ever go down these stairs. I'm also going to put down another extra supply of plank storage. We're just chewing through and making tons of planks, and we do use a lot of them. You know, the other thing we could use a lot of is gears. We don't have a lot of storage of gears. In fact, I'm going to delete one of those. I'm going to replace it with a gear production. What does a large warehouse cost? We put a large warehouse in here. That's fine. We'll make this a large warehouse for gears. So we got 2 days left before the bad water starts flowing again. I'm going to start detonating this TNT. And I'm going to keep it really simple because I want it to go fast. We're just going to put it in regular dams. And as we approach the last day before this long drought ends, I'm going to preemptively start our pumps again. We did get all the way back with just 1 layer of water, but I do want to start topping off all our tanks because I know for the short, 7-day window that we have, that's not enough time to get all of these filled. Now, how are we looking down here? Well, half a day. I don't think we're going to finish this dam quite enough. Yeah, preemptively, let's just go ahead and dynamite this. So that should open this pool up enough, and then through the wet season, they can go ahead and just finish up a dam. We'll get a road on top. That should be fine. Other than that, let's take a look back at our main supply, see how we're getting along. Well, first off, I am seeing clean water come through. So let's take a look up here. Well, it's too soon to tell if that's going to actually hold off. It should. I don't think it goes much higher than that. That gives us clean water through this route, and I can see our bad water already starting to divert down here. You can see our dam water is starting to fill back up. We're starting to make progress here. We see some of those other pools finally starting to fill up with water. So overall, I'd say our construction during the dry season kind of worked out. Now, there is one thing I would like to tackle. I have this spillway for the dam over here, and it's been a little problematic to have it there. Like, I've noticed that the flow of this water starts and stops quite a bit, and that can cause some flooding. Ideally, I think I would just like all of these gates down this main run to be sluice gates. Instead, I think what I should do is move these overflow gates here, and they can dump down and they could power the water wheels here. And then either I could use an engine in its place over here or connect this somehow so I have one power network. So I have a few days left in this wet season, so I'm going to attempt to rush that construction. Those will be replaced with regular levees. We'll see if we should be able to finish that in time. Now with the drought in 3 days, I don't want to risk replacing these with sluice gates just yet. I think I'll do that instead during the drought season. Now you can see as everything else has been going on, I've slowly been extending our pond down here. I'm going to get it at least one more high. For now, I have bigger plans for this, but I think our next construction effort is going to be over here in our downstream pond. I think this is going to be a good time to start making it higher. I do wish that we had been able to pump more water in this time though. You can see even with all these pumps, we weren't able to make, a substantial dent in that. We are kind of constrained in space. I think at some point I'm going to tear this stuff out and rebuild it anew. Especially put these pumps on something that is deeper. I notice this forester is kind of getting dead time in here. Well, we do have all this extra green space that he can now access that he wasn't able to before. We'll get him working on that. And we're back into the drought, another 27-day drought. But I think that is going to be a good stopping point for this episode. We did unlock all of this new green space so we can start making it into more farmland. We diverted kind of the bad water so now we can continue pumping it during the droughts. And we made this giant bridge so we can keep on expanding our main dam. And I have a lot of interesting things that I want to do with this, especially because I think that's going to open a path to starting to fill in this lake down here. But that is going to be for another episode. As always, I hope you guys enjoy these episodes and I hope to catch you next time.